Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast of the Auto Hour. My name's Cameron.
I'm Chris.
And we're here to bring you guys some more automotive content, news, and anything related to the industry.
That's right. That's what we do. We're here week after week for you.
Perfect. Yeah, so if you guys tuned into the first episode 1, Unveiling Our Journey, we talked a little bit about where we came from, what we do, and how we operate things around here with the company that we have. But this podcast will not be focusing mainly on the fact of the company. Of course, our services are here. We want to help all the clients that we can help day in, day out, 24/7, all the way around the clock. But the biggest thing that we are looking for in this podcast is just to be engulfed into that automotive community, to share our expertise with you guys, to share our knowledge, and to share a little bit of passion across social media, across the interwebs, however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah, and I want to take the time real quick to just get a point out there, because I received a few phone calls, texts to friends in the industry, and I'd just like to say I have nothing against car dealerships. I don't know if it came off that way in episode 1. We rely on car dealerships for our business, so I don't want anyone to misconstrue episode 1 as we are against dealerships or hate them or can't stand them. We rely on working with them for our business. So I think the point to reiterate is that we are here to help a consumer with a smoother interaction through that process, so that we're the ones that are handling the steps and the objections and the normal interactions, so that a customer doesn't have to. I think we acknowledge that the industry is what it is, but we want to help people get through the process rather than it continue to be this stigma that it's a difficult thing to do. So we love car dealerships, have plenty of friends that work at them, rely on them for our business. Just want to put that out there up front, because I had a few people reach out and say, hey, that's not very nice, but that's not the case. It didn't mean for it to come across that way. So
No, yeah, we're not discouraging anyone from using a dealership. Granted, maybe that dealership might not be the best experience, but we have people in the industry that work throughout dealerships. Yes, a lot of people out there are still really good, great morals. The problem is the industry is built off of a backbone that necessarily isn't about morals. But that doesn't mean that your salesman, that manager you're working with, that finance person is not a good person. But at the end of the day, we're not taking back what we said.
No, I'm not.
There's a reason why we're not in the industry
I'm not taking
anymore.
it back. No, I understand that. There's plenty of people out there who are doing things the right way, and those are the people that we interact with. So I don't want those people to think that that was necessarily targeted at them, because it wasn't. But yeah, I just
if you work in the dealership and we still talk to you, you're a good person.
You're a good person. That's right. That's easy.
That's easy
the
enough.
best way to put it.
So let's kick it off. It is Monday, the 22nd. I'm losing track of the days here.
Half the year gone already.
Goodness gracious. You guys will see this on Tuesday, the 23rd. But how was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty good. Actually started off with on Friday for me, in reference to a client. So we have a vehicle on consignment right now. It's a Mercedes Maybach Pullman Guard, one of 2 in the world in that spec. One of 2 in the world. The other one's in Japan. So this is the only one in the U.S. in this particular spec. If you haven't seen a Pullman Guard, it's a fully armored stretch V12 Maybach. We secured the consignment for that one early last week, and that was a big deal for us. That's a really unique vehicle for our company. We were really excited about it, and got to work trying to find a buyer for that one right away. And that led me down a path that brought me to an individual who was extremely interested, to the point where Thursday night, about 10:30, I got confirmation that we were going to be meeting to review the vehicle, and I booked a flight out of San Fran the following morning, 6 o'clock. I think I left my house about 2:30 Friday morning to catch a 6 a.m. flight to meet an individual at this vehicle. That was a really cool experience, a whirlwind of time. We had about 2 hours to review the vehicle, take pictures, inspect it, It's a 2019, 34 miles on it, really unique vehicle, but we, that was kind of the first big step of showing our commitment to making sure that our customers and clients are, on both ends, sellers and buyers, are fully taken care of. So, drop of a hat, I booked a flight, drove to the airport, met up, went over everything in the car. Well, while we were there, we had a unique opportunity to pick up a few more vehicles for consignment, special allocations. We've got a few high-end Mercedes, which we'll be posting about here shortly. Unique Ford GT that we'll talk about, and a few other ones sprinkled in that you'll see on our social media over the next few days. That was a fantastic trip. Ended up leaving where the car was stored, raced back to the airport to catch my flight, to get back home and sit in San Francisco traffic. Got back at about 7:30, 8 o'clock. It was a long day.
I have a question.
Yes.
You left your house at 2:30, you said?
2:30 in the morning.
Nice. You hit traffic on your way home. Was there traffic in the morning?
There wasn't much traffic, but it was not quiet on the roadway. That's the first time in probably 4 or 5 years that I've had to drive up there that early. I try not to fly out of SFO because it's a nightmare to get up there. But
yeah, if you try to fly out of Monterey, I don't know if you guys are locals, if you guys have come to Monterey, I'm sure you know, if you try to go out of Monterey to just about anywhere, there's a layover in Phoenix every time. Oh,
yeah, my options to get to Utah is where I went. To get to Utah, I had to fly through Phoenix or Dallas. And I don't know about you, but that sounded painful. And there were some time constraints. I had to be into Utah at a certain point. So for me, the only flight I could really catch was a 6 a.m. out of SFO, and we're going to do what we have to do for our customers, and that was really my only option. So going up there, no, it wasn't too bad. I had maybe like 30 to 45 minutes to get a cup of coffee and some breakfast before I got on the flight. Security was surprisingly slammed, and they had a new protocol, and this is off topic, but I've never seen this before at all the times I've flown. But they were staging the security line in a secondary line, and you had to walk through a channeled area. It was probably about 10 feet wide. It had partitions on each side, and you had to walk through with one other person that happened to be in the same line as you. So it wasn't necessarily somebody you knew. So you have to walk side by side, and they paced off people, like every 5 seconds you'd walk down this lane. And in between each group of two, they had a bomb, drug, whatever dog sniff in between. I had never seen anything like that.
Oh, I saw that started during COVID, actually. Big airports started doing that.
First experience with that, added probably an extra 20 or 30 minutes to it because they would let, 60, 70 people through at a time.
Yeah,
and
it takes a while.
Then the area, they had to put fans in the area that you walked through so that it would clear anything out. And my thought was like, well, what if the person that I happen to be randomly paired with in the line does have something on him, and all of a sudden the dog is like, oh gosh, sets off an alarm.
Goes after
Here
you
I am.
instead.
It's got nothing to do with me. Yeah, it was an interesting experience. Not really what I was looking for at 4:30 in the morning, but yeah.
Well, while you're away at Utah, I think the biggest thing in automotive news that I saw was the unveiling of the I don't know if it's a 2024. I don't really know.
2024. Yeah, it's
okay, so they have announced the year that TRD Pro Tacoma, they're coming out, I think they said 5 or 6 trim levels, surprisingly. So the TRD Pro is no longer the top trim. I don't know if you catch that. It's now the new Trail Hunter, and the Trail Hunter is going to be that Overlander TRD Tacoma, and they haven't released the off-road. Is that what it's called? I think the one under the TRD Pro. I'm forgetting the names.
No, I can't remember the name of it. The main focus was on the Pro.
The Pro, yeah. And that new Pro, they really revamped the body, completely new engine, new redesigned tailgate. But really, what we talked about before the podcast, those seats, man. Suspension in the seats.
A great place for them to unveil it. That truck is used by somebody that's going to take it off road, go into the wilderness, explore. So at the Kona coffee plant out in Hawaii is where they did a pretty quiet unveiling until the people who actually attended got pictures and everything, and then it was everywhere on the internet within a matter of minutes. But they unveiled the car there. The new highlight was that seat that has essentially like an active suspension almost within the seat. It allows you to control. There's 6 points on the back of the seat where you can control the stiffness and interaction of how the seat moves around and how much support it provides throughout. And the stat doesn't sound impressive. The representative for Toyota that introduced it said it reduces fatigue by, I think, 7% was what he quoted, which doesn't sound like a lot. But if you're out there in the desert or wilderness crawling all day, I think that's a pretty big advantage. At least they made it seem like it was a huge deal that they could improve, fatigue by that much. Interested to see how that actually is received. The people who order those early on, how many people are going to test it out right away and post on YouTube or their channel, what it's actually like versus.
Well, I have to say, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how people, like what they actually perceive of it. But of the overall design, how did you like the redesign of the new Tacoma?
I actually thought it looked fantastic. Yeah, I've never been that big a truck guy. I think that's probably the one segment for me where I've never been too inclined, with maybe except one exception, and that was working for Mercedes previously. They had announced for us that we were going to get the X-Class, which was Mercedes-Benz truck. We were going to get that in the U.S., and that was a big thing for probably like 6 to 8 months of our discussions with Mercedes and material we were receiving. It was all about this truck. And that ended up being scrapped for the U.S., unfortunately. I think they figured the market was just way too competitive a space to insert a niche Mercedes
niche
truck. Yeah. And, there were iterations or companies that had tried it previously. I don't know if you remember, Lincoln at one point had, I think it was like, what was it called? I want to say it was like a Mark something. It was a truck, a Mark LT. I think that's what it was.
I don't remember Lincoln having a truck.
Yeah, so they did this. It was essentially a Navigator with a truck bed instead of a third row of seats. And I will tell you, whenever one of those came about in the used car market, people were all about them. But the practicality of it is most people are buying a truck because they're going to use it for what a truck is for. Yeah. They're going to dump some rock and some mulch in the back and some lumber, and they're going to use and abuse it. And I think to have a luxury vehicle try to be a truck was pretty tough. So not to stray off, but trucks have never been my thing outside of that. I would still take an X-Class if I could get one. They are around the world. You can get them in Europe. You can get them in Central and South America, and import them into the U.S. But I've never been that big into trucks. The Tacoma, though, is probably an exception for the last few years because the Tacoma, specifically the TRDs, the Pros, have been off the charts. You've got Tacomas that are 4, 5, 6 years old, 50,000 miles that still achieve original MSRP as a sale price. And it's pretty remarkable to see a general everyday car that somebody can buy, drive for a few years, and after that still get out what they're putting into the truck. Styling-wise, I think they're fantastic. I actually liked the previous generation. The new one that they just announced definitely has a broader front.
Yeah, I think the new TRD Pro, that front end chin is extremely wide, and I think they take a lot of the design elements from the Tundra. I mean, look at the tail lights, the tailgate, the stamp. They're definitely going off. But with the new rigid lights all around, you got the front bumper rigid lights. You now have a built-in LED bar under the heritage badge on the grille. You have the bed lights in and out. And I believe the TRD Pro, I don't think has them, but the Trail Hunter now has rock sliders. And rock sliders from factory is actually a pretty big deal.
Nice.
Rock sliders are nice. They're not used as side steps, but they're bolted to the actual frame, and hence the name. If you hit a rock, you're supposed to slide off of it and not dent your frame at all. But I think it's a cool truck. I'm curious to see what it actually sells at.
Yeah, I think knowing the market on the previous generation, they're definitely going to be one of those cars that will continue to be and always will be an over MSRP car. And that may be a turnoff for certain consumers, but the individuals out there who have owned Tacomas, whether it's new or used, they would probably say that that's one of the best vehicles they've ever had. Toyota's fantastic on, reliability and maintenance. They're really affordable. They're going to run forever. Everyone's got that friend that's got a Camry with like 200,000 or 300,000 miles on it that's never had anything major go on. Like, that's just a staple of the car world. The Tacoma is really no exception. I don't see people being bothered by the markup because those that have them or want them are going to end up paying for them. It's like anything that's short supply, high demand. The people that want it will figure out how to get it. So I don't think we'll see that come out at MSRP, although we've had a lot of interaction recently from manufacturers trying to curb, the market adjustments. That really hasn't come with anything because it goes both ways. You can't tell a dealer that they can't discount a car, so you can't tell them that they can't charge over MSRP. It's kind of the same thing. So
yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
It's tough, but the truck itself, fantastic. Excited to see it, and that was a cool one that I didn't really know was going to be announced over the weekend, but that was cool to see. I did a lot of reviewing of pictures and some of the videos, especially the one in the seats while I was in the airport there waiting to come back. That was pretty cool. So what about you? How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. The TRD Pro caught me by surprise. Looked over that. I have, speaking of clients, you're dealing with ones out of Utah. We're dealing with some out of LA area, trying to help them look for their next car, what they're looking for. The TRD Pro is one of them for one of the clients. So it's just something that, every day we deal with people, viewers or friends, family, whatever it is, to help you guys find the car you need and operate it and obtain it, get the proper trade-in value or the overall money you're looking for out of the car you currently own. But 2 weekends ago, I was with at Laguna Seca at IMSA. That was a really fun race. And if you guys know Laguna Seca, it's a very famous racetrack that is, I guess, advertised.
Is it famous?
It's pretty famous.
Yeah, it is.
It's pretty famous. It's advertised as the WeatherTech Laguna Seca because WeatherTech has a beautiful contract with that. And now, interesting news, they had Lexus F as their sports cars, as their pace cars.
Yeah, Lexus is they've started taking over a lot of the sponsorship activities at Laguna.
Granted, previously, Lexus's contract ended recently. Hyundai and Elantras have taken over. So the pace cars at Laguna Seca are Hyundai Elantra N's. Interesting, correct. 4-door car. I think they're front-wheel drive. I think it's interesting to see how far Hyundai has come in the racing world, in the sport car world. I wouldn't say they're necessarily invested in the sport car world, but they have put a lot of money, time, and development into their end lines. I've heard some pretty good things about them. Granted, I am not a huge Hyundai guy. I don't have too much interest in the Elantras, but I have to say they put up some interesting numbers. They put up some good specs, and if the cars are good enough for Laguna Seca to take their money, then they have to be worth something.
Hey, good for them. I think, for them it started, and this may sound crazy to some people out there, but you remember the Veloster, the Hyundai Veloster.
Of course. I used to sell them.
That was their first, I think, dipping their toe in the water into something outside of the norm for them. They were very much focused on, a Civic competitor or a Accord or a Camry competitor for the longest time, and they came out with the Veloster. That was a pretty big departure from the norm for them, and they rode that for a little bit, and I think used that to branch out into some more unique stuff. They've got the Ioniq product now, their electric cars, which are doing fantastic in the marketplace. I'm sure you see them everywhere. If you haven't, you'll start to see them everywhere because they're doing a fantastic job with that car. They kind of blew that thing up. I think it was actually 2 Super Bowls ago where they were Super Bowl commercial heavy on the Ioniqs. But they're doing a good job.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Hyundai owns Genesis.
Yeah, so Genesis you could figure Genesis is the Lexus equivalent
exactly
to Toyota.
What really blew up, though, in the Hyundai market and what kind of took off. So I used to sell Hyundais back in the day. That first car that was kind of out of that manufacturer was the Genesis Coupe.
Yep.
That car blew up. I mean, I saw that car left and right, from clean builds to chopped up with wide bodies to slammed on bags to everything.
Reminds me of an old Toyota Celica.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it does. And then they stopped making it. They took it out of production for a while. That's when the Veloster got a little bit more attention because people who wanted new couldn't get the coupe. And I remember selling a couple of them. And I remember that the weird quirk about the Veloster is it has 3 doors.
Yeah, there's no rear door on the driver's side. That always tripped me out.
So people would come in and be like, "Oh yeah, I want to see your the coupe," and I'd be like, "The coupe?" He's like, "It's a hatchback." I'm like, "The Veloster." Oh yeah. I was like, "All right, let's go look at it." And the guy would look around it, and I would just sit there waiting for him to notice the 3rd door. And I would love, you can kind of tell when people are looking at it and how they perceive themselves on the lot in that time and presence. Where I would be like, "Oh, you got to check out the back seats," and the guy would be like, "Yeah, the back seats," and he would open like the driver door. I would open the 3rd door, and he'd be like, "There's a door over there? Yeah, there's 3 doors."
Yeah.
And actually, that was a pretty big selling point. People love that because it was unique. It was different. It wasn't like everything else. Granted, I wasn't a big fan of how the Veloster is. Now, I think the Veloster can look good on a certain build in the car world. Same with every car, though. And I'm sure everybody has their opinion. But that 3rd door was kind of cool. It's kind of unique.
It was something different. You got to have something that sets you apart, and to have the coupe that had easier access to the back was a cool thing, because anyone out there that's had a coupe, looked at a coupe, thought about it, knows that the back seats are pretty much useless unless you're willing to have somebody get back there all the time. And you're definitely not putting kids back there. But that changes when you've got, 1 door. It was interesting. It was a 4-door hatchback, because technically on a hatchback, the rear trunk counts as a door. So normal, traditional hatchback, Subaru, whatever it is, they're considered 5 doors.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know if the Veloster put up good numbers against the Ford Focus, like RS, or any of those models. The ST, the RS.
I don't know. I never had an issue with the Veloster. I thought it looked cool enough. Like, it was definitely way different than the normal coupe style everyone was doing. Like, it was a beefy little coupe. Like, that sounds... like an oxymoron,
right,
but like it was a beefy little coupe. Those were cool little cars.
But going back to the Hyundai thing, so yeah, Laguna Seca, those are the new pace cars. I think a little birdie told me that the pace cars are going to be around for 2 years. I think that's the contract.
Yeah, typically it's a few-year contract for those. Lexus, I'm surprised though that they would give that up. They've got a pretty strong hold in the area. For those of you that don't know, Pebble Beach is probably the biggest resort and a very wide range from here. And their chief vehicle sponsor is Lexus, and they have been for quite a few years. I want to say it's been 7 or 8 years already that Lexus has actually been the head sponsor at the resort.
They've been there for a long time.
I think there was a break in between. There was one before Lexus. And then before that, it was Lexus originally. And I think they had a small departure from Lexus. It was like a 2-year gap. But I think for the last 7 or 8 years, it has been Lexus.
Yeah. No, but yeah, so anyway, Laguna Seca is getting repaved, which is good.
It's good and bad. It's bad if you want to go to the AMG Driving Academy, because they're not going to have it there this year.
Well, they're not going to have a lot of things there this year. I mean, their Cars and Coffee is getting prolonged. The bridge, not the tire bridge, I'm forgetting the name of the bridge that goes over before turn 2. That's supposed to be, it was originally 8 feet. They're now making it 12 feet wide, which is actually a pretty big improvement.
Yeah.
So that'll be good. Won't be as much congestion on that bridge. So the bridge will hopefully be reopened when the pavement's done. And then with the paving of the track, that should be nice. I think Laguna Seca is popular. I think it needs a little more love shown to the track. But other than that, I love Laguna Seca. It's a beautiful track.
It's a fantastic track to drive on, even just to be at if you haven't been to it. I mean, there are events every single week out there.
Oh, yeah.
The week before IMSA, I think it was Trans Am races out there. And then 2 weeks before that was Sea Otter Classic, which is a huge biking event, happens every year. Just a massive event. They use the entire infield. They use the racetrack. They use the hills around the racetrack for mountain bike races. I mean, that's a pretty big event too, but there's always stuff going on out there. So it'll be interesting to see with all the paving that's going on, how quiet is it out there? But will be exciting once that's all done, once all the improvements are made, what that track's like to drive on. It's, I think, been a long, long time since they've done anything out there. And a lot of publications use that racetrack for car shoots, comparisons, spec, lap times. So it'll be interesting to see where other people go. I know Driving Academy moved up to Sonoma. So they
AMG?
opened Sonoma as an option for those individuals that were planning on doing it out here and can't. Still has an option, close to home. Laguna, great track.
Speaking of driving schools and academies, I don't know why, it just kicked in and rang a bell in my head. Land Rover has 3 driving schools.
Oh, yeah, they have the one at Quail,
Land
right?
Rover experiences, yeah. So it's actually pretty cool that we live so close to one, because there's one in Quail Lodge down in Carmel Valley, and there's only 2 other ones in the entire United States. And so if you've ever bought a new Land Rover, you can get a free experience at the Land Rover Experience Driving School in a car, either yours or one of their school cars. And if you buy a new Land Rover, you can go out there and just trash a vehicle, see what it's capable of.
Have you been out there for it? Sounds like a team building experience.
No, I haven't
for
been
us
out
and the
there.
guys. That sounds like something we should do.
I have a lot of passes, though, actually, but I've never gone. Working with Land Rover and the Tata company, I was able to go out to a lot of different events in LA, in Vegas, when the new Range Rover got unveiled, and we got to beat those up. And I've got to see, correct my grammar there, I've got to see what the cars are capable of. And I have to say, yes, Land Rover doesn't have the best reputation for reliability, granted, because when Ford bought them and the sketchy stuff that Ford did to that company, and a lot of people don't understand that the main reason Range Rover has that reliability issue is when Ford owned them, they didn't care about the parts going into them. They just wanted the suspension patent. Once they got that, they set off with the company, and they were doing pretty bad at that time. But they've gotten a lot better. The new Range Rovers are actually really nice. They ride, I want to say, fantastically. When I got to drive those around Vegas, those things were riding on clouds. Pretty good. But I'm also curious to see that the new V8 is from BMW. So I'm curious to see the longevity of that.
I think that'll do pretty well. And I think with the exception of the 7 Series, is probably the only one that comes to mind on issues throughout the past. But you've got it in plenty of cars over there. They do V8s in plenty of models. So
I know
that should be a good fit for them.
Yeah, and I know they're releasing a hybrid soon. 75 miles EPA range, estimated range on the battery. But I don't know what the motor is going to be from, because they have the Ingenium V6 or inline 6 and then the V8 from BMW.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
It's interesting to see where all the car manufacturers and how they're about to take drastic turns, because you hear all the time in the media, they're spending millions of dollars of research. I just saw a headline yesterday. Toyota is apparently spending a bunch of money on development for EVs, but they're not going to put them into their production cars soon. But it's just like, you have these countries and political figures and manufacturer reps, everybody saying, we're going to put all this money into EVs, we're going to be all green by this year, or fuel companies, we found fully renewable fuel source, or whatever it is. We're in a weird time as car enthusiasts. You love to hear just a good V8 or a good V6 or whatever it is. You just like to hear a good motor.
You do. There's definitely a part to that.
And there's this weird stigma that it could get taken away, but maybe not.
Well, that brings me to an interesting point. I've got a few more news things to talk about.
Hit me with them.
Big announcement from Italy. Ferrari officially announced this week that they have no intentions of going EV. They'll still continue to utilize hybrid systems in some of their supercars, but they have said gas is the way for them moving forward.
Greta Thunberg's going to be mad about that one. She's going to be outside with.
Well, the flip side of that is the other point of news, which is the Rimac Nevera. If you didn't see their announcement over the weekend, we'll drop a link in the description. But they set 23 speed records this weekend. 0 to 60 times, sub 2 seconds. And there's a video we're going to link up as well. If you haven't seen it, Chris Harris does a side-by-side race. And I say side-by-side, but they take a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ, which is ridiculous in its own right. Incredible car. And they start at 300 meters ahead of the Rimac and race down a racetrack straight away. They're on a runway. And this car passes the Lamborghini while it's going like 195, and it looks like the Lambo's going 40 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah. It looks like you're going around the dude on a highway doing 80, and the car's in the slow lane
If
going
you haven't
40.
seen it, follow the link. We'll put it in the description, but that was a fantastic automotive clip. It's remarkable to see what electric is doing in the supercar world. I don't think anyone anticipated that it was going to have that big an impact that fast. I think it was going to take some time to really put that into a supercar, but props to Rimac because that thing is an absolute bullet. And, we get to see him for the first time last year at the Quail. They really had a large presence last year, and they're going to have an even bigger presence this year, especially with the recent developments of what they've been able to produce. But that car is fantastic. Fit, finish, what it's able to do is astonishing. And you get everyone that says, well, that's great. You can do a drag race, and then you got to plug it in for 8 hours. And that's a little harsh because you can plug it into a fast charger, and in about an hour and 15 minutes, that thing's back and ready to go. But I don't think there's any car, judging off those records, that's going to be anywhere close to competing with that anytime soon.
I think what it is with the whole, you just did a pool and there's an hour and a half at the charger. I think people just are scared of the EV. I think people don't like EV. You have a lot of people that are gun-ho about engines, like, I'll only buy an engine and I'll never buy electric and, F you electric and electric stupid. I think those people are just a little narrow-minded in the sense that I think they're just scared, or I think they really do have a big passion on cars. I would never think in a million years a year ago that I would be sitting in an electric car. I got rid of a beautiful performance vehicle, a dad sedan, as I like to call it.
Go ahead, tell us what it was. We know. What was it?
Souped up 2016 Camry. I had an E63S. I love the car. It was really nice. It was fast, all stock, loud. I don't know if it was maybe because I bought it used with very low miles, but I wasn't impressed with the AMG transmissions. Might get a bunch of hate, but I wasn't too shocked. I'm young. I've owned a decent amount of cars for my age. I have one car that I am just blown away with their transmission systems, and that's Porsche. They're amazing.
We can save all the viewers a lot of time in the future and just let them know Cameron's a mega Porsche fanboy. So anytime we bring up a discussion about sports cars, he will find a way to work in Porsche.
What's your favorite performance SUV?
Oh, it's a Lamborghini Urus, also known as an Audi RSQ8.
No, I know. True. But I mean, every brand, right? A Bugatti is known as a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
But the Performante, right? The Urus Performante.
Yeah.
Fast, right? Yeah. Turbo GT beats it.
Yeah, that's cool. I'd still take the Lambo.
Yeah, I know. People like the Lambo because their spaceship looks. Don't get me wrong. I think Lamborghinis look great. I actually like the old school, sleek, quiet design of 911s. I think it's great. But anyway.
I don't think you do. I think you're just a Porsche fanboy.
Anyway, though. So I had an E63S. Love the car. Great car. Owned it for a little bit of a time. I got into a Mercedes EV. Now, as much of a car enthusiast as I am, I have to say, EVs are actually not bad. As a day-to-day driver, if you're driving around town, they're great cars. They're comfortable. They're quiet. They ride smoothly. I would recommend it as a second car in the household. I wouldn't recommend it as a primary. If you're doing a long road trip, it can be annoying. You got to plan it out. You got to get the car fully charged. You got to find charging stations on your route.
Here's the thing, though. Do you really have to plan it out? And I have an EV, too. So we've had this discussion before, and I have it all the time with people who are unsure of electric. And they're like, oh, well, you really got to figure out where you're going to charge. And I go, well, not really. I only have to plan that out if I'm driving more than 355 miles, which is what my car will get on a full charge. And if I ask myself how often I'm doing that, it's probably a few times a year.
It's not often, but people who travel for work, and there's a weird thing I ran into. So we're going camping. My family and I are going camping this summer, and we're going out to near Bass Lake, which is near Elkhurst, California. Yeah. But so I put it in the navigation system of my car. It pulls up all the chargers along the route. Super easy to use. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. But when I pulled up a couple of the chargers, it won't say it on the actual Mercedes system or any other Tesla system or whatever you have. But for some reason, when I did it on Google Maps and I looked at the chargers, I found out charging stations have, like, Google reviews, like a business. I was like, interesting. So I clicked on one because it had 1 star. How does a charging station get 1 star? I asked myself, what is this? Clicked on it. First image of the charging station, someone cut the charging cords, clipped them clean off. Apparently, it's actually a problem, like the catalytic converters. People are cutting the cords and stealing them in certain areas.
They want all that copper that's inside.
For the copper that's inside the
cabling
wires.
Is crazy. Yeah, they've started combating that. There are new methods that they're using to try to combat people from doing that. It hasn't been too big an issue recently. I will tell you, my first experience of having to plan a charge in the middle of a drive actually came this weekend. When I went up to the airport, I didn't have time to plug into the charger in the morning, and I don't have a charger at home because everywhere around me here in town are chargers, and it's free, so I don't mess with it. But I didn't have time to go to one before leaving at 2:30 in the morning, so I had plenty arranged to get to San Francisco. Was going to be close on having enough after the drive up, depending on traffic, if I could make it back home on a full charge. The fantastic part was you plug in your destination in the navigation, and it says, well, here's how much range you're going to have. It's not going to get you home, so we're going to tell you where to stop. And we know where to stop, and we know what chargers are being used, so if there's not a charger available, we're not going to tell you to pull off the highway. And it did an absolutely fantastic job. It had me pull off in Gilroy over by the outlets. And if you haven't been up there recently, or if you're trying to go up to the Bay Area and you want somewhere to charge, absolutely fantastic setup they had there. They had about 10 Electrify America superchargers all stacked up, brand new area. Had one. There were 6 open when it set the destination. Updated along the way. When I got there were 3 available. Pulled right into one. 15 minutes later, I've got 100 miles and plenty of juice to get home. And it planned it all out. And I will give it credit. It worked absolutely fantastic. Showed me how long to the charging station, how long I had to charge it to have enough to get home and still be able to
I think the tech is there. It's great. It's convenient. It's nice. But I'm just saying, if you're a car person, if you enjoy performance vehicles, or you drive a lot, EVs are great cars. They are great day-to-day drivers around town. If you need to do that once in a blue moon, long travel, go to the airport, whatever it is, fantastic. But if you do that every day, a long drive every day, those 30 minutes of charging start to build up. It starts to take time.
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, you're talking 355 miles. That's essentially 6 hours of driving.
That's your car, your make, your model. ID4s, Ioniqs, EQEs.
They're about 250, so that's 4 hours of driving. That's still a lot of driving.
You guys heard it here first. Our first EV advocate. He is just...
Oh, I'm going on 1 year strong with the EQS, and I absolutely love that part of it. And early on, I would tell you the first month, it was definitely unnerving. I was like, oh my gosh, where am I going to charge? I got to figure this out. With like 80 miles of range left, and I have this major range anxiety. Now, I'm just doing it up. Like
I
know
got
where
over the
charging
range fear
stations
quick.
are. It's not an issue. Like I maybe go once every 2 weeks to get a full charge, and it works, for me. But even a daily commuter, let's say you're spending, 100 miles in a car 2 ways, you're charging every 2 days. And for most of the people that are driving like that, you're going to have a charger in your house. Your car's charging overnight. It's not like you got to be awake to have it plugged in and charging. So I think there are some benefits to it if you structure your setup appropriately.
No, I mean, I'm not saying that it's a hassle at all. A lot of people think charging your car in public takes forever. And when I'm at 27 miles of range, I plug into the fast charger, level 3. I have 200 miles in like literally 25 minutes.
Yeah.
But when I plug it in, I go get a coffee. I go use the restroom at a close-by shop. I go grocery shopping because the charger I plug into is in a Safeway parking lot. So I literally run in, even if I don't need to go grocery shopping. I go in there and I'm like, might as well grab another carton of eggs. Maybe I need some more milk. By the time I've grabbed my one object, stood in line, gone through the checkout process, and walked back to the car, I am all the way into the situation of I'm like, 20 minutes in. I got 5 more minutes, whatever I need to do to charge. It takes no time at all. So EVs, I'm not against them. I think they're great. Got no problems with them. But as a car enthusiast, I miss feeling the gears. I miss hearing the motor. I miss building peak boost, whatever it is.
Well, you just got to borrow Mama Langshaw's car every now and then, because you can get that. She got a V8 that'll let you rip through the gears.
Mama Langshaw's got too many cars.
Well, that's even more reason for you to get your fix every now and then.
But no, I mean, I love EVs. I think I got nothing wrong with them. I definitely think companies are overcharging for them right now. I think they're trying to get their money back from research and engineering. I think as the years go on, we're going to see batteries with crazy range. I think cars are going to be crazy cheap, but I cannot see the entire automotive industry going anywhere near full electric. Granted, maybe some hybrids.
Well, it's tough because there's some timelines in place that are going to require all new vehicles to be electric within the next 10 years.
Yeah, but, you know, he said, she said type of situation in the sense of like, oh, we're going to be all electric by 2030. Okay, well, when 2028 comes around and no engineering's done or none of that's in place, we're not just getting jumped right into the EV world, EV era.
Yeah, but even in the last year, I mean, the amount of competition alone that has come up in the marketplace is pretty astonishing. I mean, there's definitely a shift. It's going to happen at some point. Whether or not it's completely electric at a certain point, I don't know if that's the way it's going to go, but...
Well, I mean, look at F1. This was months ago, but Porsche was supposed to secure a contract with Red Bull. They lost it. Ford got the contract because Red Bull wanted to work more with Ford because of their history and their knowledge right now with EV batteries.
Yeah.
So I think we've seen F1 cars are leaning in that direction.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Porsche because as a fanboy yourself, I'm surprised you didn't bring up their announcement about their fuel that they've been operating.
Thing of the past.
Well, it was a recent announcement that they have been fully testing and looking for approval for their fuel that's based off of water.
No, it's actually, I was talking about it with a fellow PCA member.
For those of you that don't know, that's the Porsche Club of America.
It's super exclusive. No, it's not. You can go to the website, sign up. It's actually a really cool little club.
We'll drop a link in the bio so Cameron can have some more friends.
You get free magazines every month. It's worth it. But we were talking about it, and no, the fuel is definitely something that's super interesting. And it's just also weird that like now that EVs are blowing up, right? You have all these companies, even fuel companies, ExxonMobil are like, oh, we found a fuel source that's clean. Like, okay, well, what now? You just found it randomly,
right? Yeah, now we figured out how to make gasoline 20% better for the environment. All of a sudden,
yeah. Oh, now that our cars might have to, or we might slowly have to shut down locations. We found a way to save the environment.
Yeah, it's a little suspect. I think some of the stuff that's happened recently, but definitely going to be a topic of discussion that we'll continue to talk about throughout time.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. It's going to be interesting, but. I mean, EVs, great cars. It's interesting to see what the industry is going to have. Interesting to see how racing is going to change.
Yep.
What contracts are going to get secured in which ways.
Formula One this week was canceled.
Really?
At Imola, that region there is facing some pretty big challenges with flooding right now. If you haven't seen it, feel for the community there. They're going through some pretty rough times, and all the local authorities, FIA, everyone decided that it was in everyone's best interest to not strain the resources of the area so that the local community can be helped out through a tough time. I don't know if they're making up the race or not, but
I did see the AlphaTauri team, if I'm pronouncing that correct. AlphaTauri. They were assisting. They were actually putting in on Twitter. They were helping out. Everything they could do, but I did see something about that. I just didn't pay attention to.
I was so caught up in the PGA Championship this weekend, I totally missed F1, but had to read about it last night, looking for my highlight video. I love my 7 or 8 minute highlight video every Sunday. Formula One race, it's fantastic.
Well, yeah, and to bring up too is going a little bit off topic from where we've been for the last 20 minutes, 15, whatever it's been. We want to start getting questions from you guys. Everyone that watches the podcast tunes in, pays attention to us as a group of people or as a company. Any questions you guys have? If you want to know our opinions on a car, if you want to ask a question about how to get into the industry, if you're looking to get in the automotive industry, to work at a dealership, to work for yourself, whatever it might be, if you're looking to buy a car, if you need to refinance a car, whatever it is, automotive relations, shoot it at us. even if you want to ask a question about your personal life, feel free. Will we answer it? I don't know.
We'll direct those to Cameron. He's good at that stuff.
Depending on the context of the question. But yeah, we want to start answering your guys' questions and having kind of more of a aimed topic for the podcast, for you guys, something that we can give back, something that you guys can see, something that you guys can have interest in on a personal level. So we want to help you guys out there. So I think in the description of the video, on our Instagram, we'll post about it. Anywhere that you guys can send us a direct message. If you want to comment on the YouTube video, comment on an Instagram post, DM us, whatever it is, call our personal cell phone number to the office, and just give it to us over the phone. Whatever it is, however you want to give us the question, we're here. We want to help you guys out. We want to answer everything we can. And like I said, the podcast, our goal is to be engulfed in the automotive community, be with you guys, give back to the community, and spread positivity. That's what we're here for.
Yep. And I think that probably wraps it up for this week. Just remember, if you want to buy a car, sell a car, maintain it, store it, wrap it, put some tin on there, change the color of it. We've got you set up. Let us know how we can help. That's what we're here to do. That's our day in, day out operation. We appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm Chris.
I'm Cameron.
And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.